Hey guys, welcome back to a Monday night review of the Food City dirt race at Bristol, Tennessee. I am Hallie with High Octane Cards. So let's get this thing started. I don't know if you guys watched the race today. I'm not gonna split hairs with the race. It was a decent race, probably about a B minus race at best in my book. It became a single file Bristol race like the old asphalt surface when it was starting to wear a little bit there in the mid 2000s. So it became difficult to pass. The conditions became dusty about two-thirds through the race, so bad that they had single file restarts for the rest of the race. So it kind of had some opportunities there I think they missed out on. Obviously, when they come back next year, they did announce next year's Spring Bristol race will be on dirt again. So maybe they'll take the knowledge that they learned and maybe use a different type of dirt that will maybe pack a little bit better and won't be as dusty. But we'll just have to wait and see on that. In case you guys haven't seen it yet, Joey Logano did win the race. Ricky Stenhouse was second, Denny Hamlin third. Daniel Suarez was fourth in a really impressive run, and Ryan Newman was fifth. We had William Byron was sixth, Tyler Reddick seventh, Ryan Blaney eighth, Eric Jones ninth, and Chase Elliott 10th. Excuse me. Not really a lot of surprises in the top 10, except for Suarez. It was noted today that he had very, very, very limited dirt track experience. He came out and almost won the second stage. I believe he finished second in that stage. Led somewhere in the neighborhood of almost 60 laps. Had just an incredible run, so a great run for that Trackhouse team. The dirt regulars, or the ringers as they call them, a lot of the teams the brought in, Chris Wyndham and Stuart Friesen and some of those guys, they did not fare well at all. And this kind of makes me think back to the days when the teams would bring in road race ringers on the road courses, and those guys really didn't do too hot either. And the thing is, you're taking a guy that has expertise in one element of racing, putting them in a car that's totally foreign to them, and expecting them to perform. And I think they got a lot of hype from, Fox, and well, they should have, just because it was, they're on their type of track. Didn't work out. We now have 7 different winners this season. So that's, I believe they said 2014 has been the last time that they started the season with 7 different winners. So we do have, what are we looking at? 19 races till the playoffs start. So we could get 16 different winners. I really, really, really don't know. That'll be very, very interesting. There were a bunch of cautions, which I forgot to write down, so I'm apologizing for that already. And it did have 1 overtime finish. I was expecting it to go into more overtimes, but they all played nicely after that overtime finish. The first overtime, I should say. Got some interesting facts here I started looking up. A couple more drivers. Martin Truex Jr. led about half the race. Cut a tire on that last restart, finished 19th. And 2 heavy favorites, Kyle Larson and Christopher Bell, crashed early. Christopher Bell was out and finished 34th. Kyle Larson limped home. I think he got 2 of his 3 laps back, ended up 29th. So those 2 guys just had very, very horrible runs, even though their day started off really promising, especially Larson, who was the pole sitter, but had to go to the back because of an engine change, and he worked his way all the way up to the top 5 before the crash happened. But about this race, margin of victory was 0.554 seconds. There were 5 lead changes among 5 drivers. But here's the stat. Okay, now, here's 2 stats. The race was 253 laps with the overtime. It was scheduled for 250 laps, 125 miles. 253 laps was the official conclusion for 126.5 miles. And I'll get to that stat here in a minute that I want to touch on. But the first one, the average speed of the race was 46.313. Now, you can take this 2 ways. Number one, you can take it as, they don't have to have fast races to have great races, which is true, and I do believe that. I believe sometimes you back the cars down on speed, you can get them side by side more, and you can do a little bit more digging and banging like they did today, which is what a lot of the fans want to see. For me, it doesn't matter. A race is a race. I don't see a bad race. I like to be able, if it's a single file race and somebody laps the field by 3 laps, then that driver deserved to win, because he's earned that victory, or she. But anyway, that average speed, remember this, 46.313. I did some digging. That is the slowest average speed for a race winner since the 1968, that's 53 years ago, Meyer Brothers 250 at Bowman Gray Stadium at Winston-Salem. David Pearson won the race by 3 laps over Richard Petty. It's a half a mile or a quarter mile track, and the average speed was 42.94 miles an hour. So this was the slowest race since 1968. Now, the distance, this is the least scheduled distance for a race since the 1971 Buddy Schumann 276 at Hickory. Now, that was 276 laps on a .363 mile track for a scheduled distance of 100.2 miles. Tiny Lund won that race in a Camaro, but technically not a Grand National / what you now know as a Cup car. It was a Grand American car because they ran these combination races. So that's why Bobby Allison is only credited with 84 wins and not 85. But that's another story for another day. So anyway, overall, I thought the race was decent. Like I say, about a B+. Had a couple multi-car crashes. The dusty conditions were just atrocious at times. Even with the onboards, you couldn't see what was happening. You had the setting sun playing a very, very big role. I think this race would be better suited to be moved just slightly later in the year, maybe early May, late April, and be a night race. So that way you're going to have dusty conditions, but the sun will be a non-factor. I think that would be a smart move for NASCAR and Bristol and all these guys. Just bump it back down the schedule a little bit. You've got 28, 29 other tracks you can go to. I don't know the exact number of tracks, but you have several other tracks that you can swap dates with. You could have run Texas this weekend and been fine with it, and then move Bristol a little bit later in the season. But nonetheless, it was overall a decent race. Not really any surprises. Suarez, it is a bit of a surprise, but I did think that his run last week in Atlanta, till they had the pit penalty, really validates this run. So this team does have some fire under their bellies. They did move up to the top 20 in points. I did see that. And of course, with 7 drivers securing wins so far this year, that's going to tighten that notch for that 16th position, especially if somebody like Michael McDowell does fall out of that top 16 in points. Then you start raising the bar for who that cut line ends with. Alex Bowman right now is in that 16th spot, so there's a lot there that you don't know what's going to happen, but we'll just wait and see. I do think that we could get 16 winners, and this is where NASCAR is going to find themselves in a really, really, really bad spot, is when it comes down to that final race, which is Daytona is the cutoff race this year. Again, if you get to Daytona and the guy that's second in points ends up 1 point, just 1 point behind the guy that wins the regular season title, but does not have a win, but there's 16 drivers that have wins and he doesn't, he's out of the playoffs. And he could sit out the rest of the year and still finish 17th in points, because the guy that's going to be in 18th is going to be so many points behind him, there's no way to catch up. But again, there is no perfect system. I do believe this system is flawed. I don't totally agree with the win and you're in philosophy. I believe there's got to be a little bit more than that. Again, maybe the top 16 should be in, and then you have a bracket style where, just like a drag racing bracket, where you have number 1 going against number 16. It's hard to illustrate it without a graph, and I don't want to get into that because I've got my ideas and my thoughts on it, but that's neither here nor there. But anyway, I did like the idea of the Bristol Dirt Race today. I think that it might have some legs under it if they're going to schedule and do it again for next year. Like they've said on the telecast, they're going to do it again next year. Then, maybe this is what they're going to do going forward. I would like to see it, like I said, just bumped maybe a month or so later in the year. Everybody's complaining, oh, it's springtime. Well, when the Bristol Spring Race was in April, it would rain. When it's in March, it's going to rain. I believe they used to run the race in May at one time. But, it's a race. It's going to rain. It doesn't matter. Every single track that we race at now has had rain at some point or another, and the race has either been postponed to the next day, or they've got it in, or whatever. So it doesn't matter where you put it on the schedule, you're always going to battle the weather, and the weather's always going to win. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this review. The race was pretty good, like I said. It's people online are just going crazy about it. I was checking out Twitter and Facebook feeds on different groups and such, and even on the Twitter one was a little bit more diverse, and the way people were really polarized with their opinions. The NASCAR media people were, oh, this is a great race. This is, we need more of this. And people, former NASCAR people, and some other folks were like, it's average. So it's really split down the middle. I don't have a side either way that I think that it's a good race or a bad race. It was a race. They tried something. It just needs some tweaks for it to be really, really good. And I think it added more flavor to the schedule. But I think they should have went to a permanent dirt track, because the idea trying to create things out of something that isn't there. I think doing that Bristol project was a very, very big undertaking. Bristol Motor Speedway did pull it off. Marcus Smith and his team obviously worked very, very hard and diligent, and they had all that rain yesterday. But maybe they should have went to Eldor. Who knows? But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video tonight. Tomorrow, we're going to open. I'm just looking at the cards on the other side of the camera here and trying to decide what I want to do for tomorrow. We'll probably go ahead and open up that box of Torque because it's just been hollering at me. So let's do that. We'll open that box of Torque tomorrow and hopefully pull something good. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Enjoy the rest of your Monday, at least what's left of it, because there's not much left of it. And come back and see us tomorrow, and we'll see if we can pull some good stuff out of that Torque. Thanks for watching, guys.